Tesla just made leasing a lot cheaper in the US. The Model Y rear-wheel drive is $100 cheaper now, and so is the Model 3. Other trims are also significantly cheaper. However, Tesla still does not let you buy the vehicle after the lease expires. Remember this headline from earlier? It said, Tesla seeks investors for $1.8 billion securitization of EV leases. This is very recent, and it could have something to do with these lower lease prices. Or it could also be viewed as a price cut. It's also important to know that Tesla has never really focused on leasing, and lease prices have always been a bit higher on a Tesla than on similarly priced EVs. Last quarter, for example, only about 5% of Tesla's sales were leased, which is far below the industry average. So when Tesla cut prices earlier, we didn't really see these big changes in leasing as well. Here's another possible explanation for the lease reduction prices. While Tesla's website doesn't state this openly, this price drop could have something to do with the way the EV tax credit works, which allows almost all of its restrictions to be bypassed by leasing vehicles. Most companies have taken advantage of this and are now passing along these lease savings to customers, but Tesla never did. Again, we don't know if it's starting to do this now and passing the savings along, or if it's still keeping those credits for itself and this lease price reduction is just reflective of the falling prices of Tesla vehicles anyway. Also, Tesla now says on the Model 3 order page that the $7,500 EV tax credit is expected to reduce to $3,750 on December 31st, pending federal guidance. They are encouraging people to take delivery in Q4 to guarantee full incentive. The reason for this is that the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits are limited to cars with battery components and raw materials that come from the US or from a free trade partner. The restriction gets stricter each year, and it looks like Tesla thinks it won't qualify for half of the credit with next year's tightening of restrictions. James has a pretty good take here. The tailwind is that credit becomes point of sale in January of next year, but the headwind is it will also come down in January, at least for the rear-wheel drive Model 3. Overall, however, he says it is not bullish because no one knows about the tax credit anyway, so they will just see a lower price in January. There are certainly many people that don't know about it. I saw one survey where a lot of people had no clue about it. I can't find the survey now though. Also, just to show you how unattractive, relatively speaking, Tesla's leasing was before, overall in the US, nearly 30% of all retail sales were leased, but Tesla's, well, only 5% of Tesla's roughly were leased. And there's an interesting point here. I have always assumed that as they get within 3 years of legit FSD/robotaxis, that we will see a huge shift towards leases, basically a way for Tesla to pay down a fleet of 3s and Ys to be prepared. I think another reason why the lease rate is so low is because you just can't buy out the vehicle at the end of your lease. And while this comment does make some sense, I think Tesla would just focus on robotaxis a lot more and a lot sooner, or the next generation vehicle if that was the case. But certainly I can see the point here. I also think that it is a more bullish sign for FSD when FSD prices increase and not decrease. Recently they decreased. So I don't see this as bullish for FSD at all, really. Well, maybe not at all, but not much. I think it's a valid point, but it's just not that significant. UAW launches a strike against Ford's Kentucky truck plant, signaling a major escalation in this labor fight. This strike was unexpected, and it produces highly profitable SUVs over there. 8,700 UAW members work there. And Ford stock was down over 3%, although it recovered a little bit. And this is Ford's largest manufacturing plant in the world. It generates $25 billion annually for them, about a sixth of the company's global automotive revenue. It weakens Ford, and therefore it makes Tesla stronger as it decreases competition. And it's interesting how it all went down. Wednesday afternoon, the UAW informed Ford it wanted a new counteroffer on economics by 5 p.m., then called for a 5:30 p.m. meeting at Ford headquarters. When the company said it did not have a full counteroffer on economics, Fain, the UAW leader, stood up and said, "You just lost the Kentucky truck plant." The meeting took less than 10 minutes, the source said. Getting back to 4680 cells that are produced in Texas, Troy thinks that all of them are now the second generation with higher density. And using the current trend of 4680 production, Farzad predicts how many Cybertrucks will be delivered. He thinks 500 will be delivered this year, 65,000 next year, and 325,000 in 2025. He is using 23% per month growth. We now know where Tesla is going to get its custom stainless steel for the Cybertruck body panels. It is a Finnish supplier. It's Europe's biggest producer actually, but they do have a plant in Alabama, and there could be more than one supplier. The refreshed Model 3 just made its Hong Kong debut, and in the US there was another spotting of the refreshed Model 3. I'm still expecting it to come out next year, probably early next year. Tesla also made this clip about the refreshed Model 3 just for Hong Kong, or at least it was specifically posted under the Hong Kong account. I never open my Tesla door like this. I go like this. But maybe in Hong Kong they do it like that? I'm not sure. Probably not. I think it's probably the same reason why before the smartphones they used to use flip phones for a lot of movies, because it would be very clear when you hang up. A website that sells used cars in Korea announced that Tesla Model 3 topped the list after analyzing used electric vehicle model inquiry data over the past year. Model 3 tops the list of use, indicating a high interest in Tesla vehicles. Statistically, men in their 20s and 40s are the most interested. Tesla just raised wages for Giga Berlin employees. However, it is still unclear how much the wage increase is. The Italian company that makes Giga presses has 25 orders. I wonder if Tesla has ordered more anytime recently. Sura did a poll. In your opinion, what is the bigger issue for Tesla? Affordability, economic/macro conditions, awareness of pricing, production? I think really the most important thing for Tesla right now is to get the next generation vehicle out as fast as possible. It won't matter what the economic environment is then. Just get it out. Or full self-driving. FSD, of course, has a bit more uncertainty, but the next generation vehicle, it's very clear what needs to be done. And Tesla is working on it, of course. So if you think about the next generation vehicle, and if we include the Cybertruck in this production option, I would go with production, because if we had the Cybertruck already and the next generation vehicle, they would have no issues at all. So I think these should be the main priorities for Tesla. There's this new poll and the results are wow. 57% of Americans say unlikely, very unlikely to purchase an EV as their next car. Main reason, 70% cite overall cost versus gas, 73% say it's because of range, and 77% say it's because of lack of charging stations, and only 30% of Americans are aware of EV incentives. In Tesla's Model Y and Model 3, vehicles are now cheaper than average US vehicles. So one way to look at this would be to say, oh, this is terrible because Tesla is not selling more vehicles, but because so many people don't know about the incentives, that leaves a lot of room for increasing demand, just because people will eventually learn that they can get a lot of incentives. So people learning about all of these incentives will increase the demand substantially. Tesla creates official APIs for third-party services to start charging for usage. This is an interesting upgrade for a Tesla Model Y. You can get it for $15,000. It will lift up your Tesla Model Y 5 inches. New vehicle average transaction prices declined in September 2023, now slightly under $48,000. Average price for new non-luxury vehicle in September was $44,500, and for a luxury vehicle, the price was $62,300. The prices were stable throughout this whole time, except after all of the supply chain shocks, and now the price has been stabilizing and coming down by a little bit. Tesla's average transaction prices are now lower than Acura, Lexus Infiniti, and Volvo. Good, because these are all premium brands and Tesla wants to be a mass market brand. Average price paid for EVs in September was $50,683, down from $52,200 in August and down from more than $65,000 1 year ago, led by Tesla largely. Overall, the new vehicle market is seeing incentives increase, but they remain far below historical levels, suggesting that overall market demand continues to exceed supply. Here you can see the size of incentives, and yeah, still way below historical levels. SpaceX has added a new page to the Starlink website, Direct to Cell. This will eliminate cellular dead zones and provide global connectivity. When I was traveling once and I was in a remote location and I had no cell service for a moment, it made me feel a bit uncomfortable, so that should never happen to anyone ever again eventually. Ford is offering a new F-150 Lightning incentive, which is $7,500. So it's not just Tesla cutting prices. There's an interesting point here. Why are they discounting these when clearly they could just spend a few million on advertising them and sell them for full price? We have been assured advertising is the perfect alternative to price drops. Here's some good news. Tesla has improved its position in Universum's most attractive employers list, which asks students across the globe which companies they want to work for. Tesla ranked 38th for business students, 16th for engineering students, and 19th for information technology students in the 2023 report. It was the first time Tesla cracked the top 50 for business majors, while it gained 10 spots from 2022 in engineering and 9 spots in IT. There are many of these lists, and in some lists Tesla scores a lot higher, but in this one, it now scored higher this time. Not in the top 10 yet, but clearly there is progress. However, we expect Tesla may drop in the Universum rankings in 2024 since the company announced job cuts and hiring freezes in June, shortly after we fielded our survey, the report said. Apple led the business category, while Google maintained its top spot in both IT and engineering. This study reflects student thoughts from the United States, Canada, Brazil, England, Italy, France, Germany, China, and India. But keep in mind, if we look specifically at the US, Tesla and SpaceX are the top two when it comes to specifically engineering students. And the US obviously is still the most important. So it's not like Tesla is losing here. No, not at all. As Tesla continues to expand in other countries as well, Tesla will keep climbing up this survey. I mean, if you are an engineer in India, you can't really work for Tesla unless you want to specifically go to the US. And pretty much the same goes for Brazil, England, Italy, and France. If you are an app developer, maybe you will want to make one for a GM vehicle. GM now has its own API for software developers to make cool apps for its cars. Here's one idea that a developer could use to design an app for GM. As UAW expands its strike against Ford lays off 1,000 workers at various other facilities. I think these people are not very happy with UAW, right? I found this chart that shows EV share of total brand sales. Toyota is only 0.5%. Wow, Lexus is 2%. Nissan 3%, and Nissan was one of the first manufacturers that released an actual EV. Remember the Nissan Leaf? How come they are so behind? BMW and Audi are way ahead, and I mean Audi, I don't remember them competing with the Nissan Leaf years and years ago. How things have changed. She is fairly well known, and she posted this: enormous sitting inventory is bullish, ? But I think this was really more of a statement that all of this inventory is actually not good for Tesla, which goes to show us how even smart people can make mistakes and create opportunities for us, because these are all refresh Model 3 sitting in Giga Shanghai, getting ready to be exported to Europe. Every single one of these vehicles pretty much already has a customer. So when you increase production and you already have customers for these vehicles, yes, it is bullish. I am still amazed how sometimes even smart people keep misunderstanding Tesla. This will not last forever, so in the meantime, I'm going to keep buying more Tesla stock. Right, Tesla says that Tesla Cybertruck gets new, smaller wheel covers. The new one is on the right and the old one is on the left. Which one do you like more? I think this one looks a bit more rugged. This one is maybe a bit more better for everyday regular use. Although I would probably take the one on the left side. Forzad says that the Tesla Model 3 is now cheaper than a Toyota Prius. When comparing the new Model 3 lease versus a Toyota Prius, not only is the monthly payment cheaper, but the total cost of the 36-month term is lower when accounting for fuel costs. It makes more and more sense every quarter, it appears, to own a Tesla, or in this case, lease a Tesla. And Forzad shows his numbers here. The amount for electricity paid is 14 cents per kilowatt hour. I pay a little bit less than that, so some people may save even more money here, but some will pay a bit more, of course. So yeah, these numbers look pretty interesting here. Now we need to be cheaper than a Toyota Corolla. We need to have a model like that eventually. I would like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for supporting this channel. By joining my Patreon, you will get access to how much I think it is fair to pay per Tesla share each year between 2023 and 2033. If you sign up for the investor tier of support, you will also get my valuation model of Tesla stock with a 45-minute video walkthrough. And YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching that discussion about the future with Elon Musk, watch this one first. My name is Matt Potius. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.